to receive with gratitude. Betrayal that the Palestinians have been let down time and time again by the United States, which purports to be an honest broker. We urge the international community, particularly European powers such as France, Germany, and the UK, to reject this egregious attempt to destroy the hopes, dreams, aspirations of the noble Palestinian nation. The irony that both Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is facing criminal charges in Israel, and President Donald Trump, who is undergoing an impeachment trial in Washington, D.C., are pulling a diversionary stunt that might lead to Israeli and Palestinian deaths, escalate tensions in the Middle East and in the occupied territories, and further destabilize the Middle East. This irony should not be lost on anyone.
Thank you so much for that. Our next speaker will be Haneen. She's with American Muslim for Palestine, the Dallas chapter. Haneen?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, especially merciful. When the impeached president of the U.S. got together with apartheid Israel's indicted prime minister to put together a so-called deal of the century, what we got was a complete disaster and the theft of the century. The PLO has been rightly avoiding any diplomatic engagement with the Trump administration following a series of unprecedentedly anti-Palestinian steps taken in recent years by the United States, including recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital and moving the U.S. embassy there, shutting down the PLO embassy in Washington, D.C., and the U.S. Consulate General in Jerusalem, which for more than 1 century had served as an independent conduit for diplomatic relations between the United States and the Palestinian people. Ending U.S. funding for UNRWA and bilateral economic assistance to the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and reversing U.S. policy that had previously deemed Israeli colonization of the West Bank to be illegal. The contours of Trump's deal of the century are expected largely to fall within this inimical pattern of anti-Palestinian policy. Trump's plan will permit Israel to annex most or all of its illegal settlements in the West Bank, along with most or all of the Jordan Valley, leaving Palestinians with only a very truncated state in the remainder of the West Bank. However, any such state would be completely devoid of sovereignty. The state would not be able to establish an army, have control over its airspace, sign treaties, or control borders. Indeed, Israel's annexation of the Jordan Valley would ensure that the state is completely surrounded and dominated by Israel. The Palestinian state would doubtlessly not be able to exercise true sovereignty in Jerusalem, and Palestinian refugees would not be able to exercise their right of return. American Muslims for Palestine unequivocally opposes any such plan and will redouble its efforts in Capitol Hill to continue supporting an expanding bloc of members of Congress who are committed to Palestinian rights. And here I want to show this map showing a parallel between the South African apartheid, where they have these pockets of land for the Bantustans and the colored people to live on, and Israel, and how it has little pockets of lands for the Palestinians to be forced and oppressed on. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Haneen. In conclusion, this so-called deal is a legitimization of creating an apartheid state that the Palestinians will be forced to live in. This so-called deal undermines any hope of having a Palestinian state, which has been the goal and the aspiration of the Palestinians for the last 70 years. This deal is nothing more than capitulating to the religious right in this nation, who want to bring about Armageddon, who want to bring about the end of the world, and they are now leading the government in bringing this reality into light. This is not a deal that the Palestinians will get beyond. This is not a deal that any will work in any way. This is nothing more than, as Hadi mentioned, a political stunt done by two people who are in positions that are actively being targeted by their own countries for crimes that they have done within their own nations. We call on the American public to stand up, to speak up, and to call on their elected officials to go in the street, to hold education workshops, to educate the population about this injustice. I invite everybody this Saturday, February the 1st, from 2 to 4 p.m. in downtown Dallas at the Daily Plaza, or the Grassy Knoll as otherwise known, to come for a protest that we will hold in order to bring a voice to the Palestinian community and make sure that this injustice is met with we the people. Thank you for coming. Have a good day. Goodbye.